Hello, I'm C. Edward Baldwin, and you're watching the Ink Report. The Republican Party, Party of Reagan, Eisenhower, Teddy Roosevelt, Abe Lincoln, the Grand Old Party, the GOP. Party of old ideas, old way of thinking. A party whose greatest leader, most innovative thinker, has been dead over a decade and hasn't been president since 1988. Now, in 2015, a parade of presidential candidates from the GOP have staked their claim to Reagan's legacy, have staked their claim to 1980s. Problem? We're living in 2015. And should one of these candidates become president in 2016 to take office in 2017, it's potentially a sad day for America. Because there's nothing bad or could be worse than waking up on January 1st or January 20th, 2017, and realizing that your paper says it's 1988. See, that's what the Republican Party wants to do. At least that's what their leaders tell the Americans they want to do. And no, you don't have to agree with the way President Barack Obama handled Iran or Cuba or healthcare. You could want to do something different, okay? But what you can't do, what's dangerous to do, is to continue to do what we've done in the past. To continue to treat these issues in 2015 like we treated them in 1980s. That kind of backward thinking will not move the country forward, and it will not handle the situations that we have today. I've been waiting for a Republican candidate to come out with something different, something innovative. All I've been hearing is the same old from 20, 30 years ago. And common sense tells you that whatever you did in 1980 will not work effectively in 2015. But one candidate after the other on the Republican side has come out and said, I'm going to do what Reagan did. And Reagan's been dead a long time. That's the reality of the situation. And he hadn't been president before he died in a long time. Two young candidates on the Republican side, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. I think both of those candidates are in their early 40s. You will hope that either one of those two candidates will come out with innovative thinking fit for the times, thinking that would lead us further into the 21st century. Heck, Marco Rubio even came out and said it with his mouth, said that he was of the future, that Hillary and even Jeb Bush on his party side represented the past. But what has he done or said since then or demonstrated he would do? Praise Reagan like they all tend to do. And then he hired as his advisors all the people who were in those past administrations, the Bush people, the Reagan people. And what has he said when the president mentioned Cuba, when he mentioned Iran, even on Obamacare, the health care? Rubio has touted what we've done in the past. Cuban embargo that we had for over 50 years should remain. The programs that we had in place with the sanctions with Iran should remain. And not even have the common sense to understand that the sanctions against Iran that led to the Iran deal, the nuclear deal, were put in place to bring Iran to the table, the negotiating table, which they did. And then a deal was reached. A deal that could work, could not work, but it's something different. It's something fit for the 21st century. And the Republicans obviously don't like it. They want to go back to 1980, 1950. Again, a party of old ideas. You get the idea, the thought process that if Republicans were in charge of, say, technology, We wouldn't have the smartphone. We'd still be rotary dial. Wouldn't have flat screen TVs. They'd still be black and white. Wouldn't have tablets or computers. Those newfangled things are dangerous. The year is 2015. It's the 21st century. And it's no longer to the benefit of the country for our leaders to think in terms of backwardness. Now, you don't have to like President Obama's policies, but you have to understand that Reagan's policies aren't fit for today. And so, if I was a Republican, I wouldn't want to hear another leader come out today talking about Reagan. Reagan is dead. He hasn't been president since 1988. We need a leader to lead us in the 21st century. And so if you Republicans, you got to demand your leaders come along in the 21st century. Now, you can hate the president. That's your right. But you can't drag this country back into the past. Not when the world around us is moving headstrong into the 21st century. We got to be there with them. Lindsey Graham came out yesterday and said if he was president, the first thing he gonna do in office is put that embargo back on Cuba, take the Iran table off, the Iran deal off the table. Let's go back to what we were doing before. Repeal Obamacare. In other words, Lindsey Graham on January 20th or January 21st, 2017 is going to take the country back to 1988. And that is supposed to make the country better. But you got to use common sense. America is at its finest when we're leading change, when we're forging new ways of doing things. Not when we mired in 1980s. And it's okay to admire Reagan. I admire Abraham Lincoln. But it's not 1860. So Lincoln can't be in office now. So you can admire Reagan, but put Reagan where he was, where he is now, as a historical figure. He's gone, passed on. Read about him, study him if you will. But his policies that worked in the 1980s, cannot work today. And that's a hard truth. The year is 2015, and it's the 21st century. We need leaders to realize that and act accordingly.